Hi, my name is Himashini. I am a partner at Grant Thornton Australia, and I'm the head of financial services tax. What drew me to my career? I actually did law back in the day, and why I did law was to become a change maker. I love tax, and obviously tax is an amalgamation of law, accounting, and commerciality of all principles. And then I fell in love with superannuation. Why superannuation? Because that's where you give your best back to the members of a superannuation fund. So back to square one, I became that change maker. So some of the common challenges women face in Australia when it comes to superannuation funds and retirement savings is that their career breaks they have. For example, caregiving responsibilities and maternity breaks actually have a significant impact on superannuation savings. How one can mitigate this is think about returning to work programs, and sometimes part-time work programs actually can help too. When you're thinking about part-time employment, it's really important to understand this can again have significant impact on your superannuation savings. How can you mitigate this? It's going back to upskilling yourself when you're in a part-time environment, or negotiating better positions can actually help your retirement savings. Research have found out that women live longer than men. That could be an interruption or a challenge to a lot of women. That means when you live longer, what you've saved is not enough or sufficient for the future. How can you mitigate this again? Is thinking about working longer and upskilling yourself and evolving yourself into different careers can help you have a longevity in your super balance. Now, one thing we've been talking about for a long time is gender pay gap. Now, gender pay gap can have a massive impact on your superannuation savings too. How can we circumvent this? Now, it's a responsibility not just on us, but the employers as well as the government as well. We need to be lobbying for policy that would enable us to have higher super guarantee rates, probably advocacy in relation to employer core contributions by employers, as well as having tax incentives for women who work part-time, women who have career breaks, just so that the super gap is not as extraordinary as it has been in the past. Having these proactive steps can actually enable you to have a better retirement strategy as well as a better saving in the future. So what should every woman in Australia keep in mind? Start early. When you start saving early, it actually helps significantly to contribute towards your super saving going forward into the future. Start saving consistently. There are times when you take career breaks where you can get help from your spouse or your partner to support your contributions as well. Another aspect is know your super fund, know your superannuation. What does that mean? Going and asking questions. What are the investment options available for me? What are the investment strategies available for me? Are there any other investment strategies that I can get help from? For example, getting help from advisors, superannuation strategists, or specialists to help enable you to have a better investment structure in terms of your superannuation. Planning for longevity is important. As I said earlier, women live longer than men. The financial impact of living longer, that means that you will have to have higher or a significant amount of super contributions in your superannuation fund. To enable you to do this, you need to be able to have a better strategy and aim at getting better financial advice for a better superannuation contribution. Planning for career interruptions is important too. As I mentioned earlier, career interruptions could be where you take maternity leave and breaks or caregiver breaks. So going into that workforce and have a better strategy in enabling your super contributions to grow while you are taking that break is important. Seeking professional advice as well as staying informed of legislative changes when it's introduced in terms of superannuation contributions is really important. What does that mean? In the recent years, there have been legislative changes that came by when they introduced on catch-up payments on concessional contributions and caps. These are really important legislative changes that we need to be informed of that could have a massive impact on your super contribution. Preparing for unexpected events is really important. We all go through tough times. The pandemic taught us that. What does that mean? We need to be aware of what is out there to help us or enable us to have a better super contribution. Now that means we need to be aware of income protection policies, TPD insurance, which will support you and enable you to access super contributions when and when you need them. How do you ensure that we close that gap? Start small. Taking small steps to achieve an achievable or measurable goal is easier than trying to achieve big goals. Educate yourself in terms of investment options available to you. Making sure that you talk to the right people with your right advisors to enable you to understand what's out there that can help me to close that gap is really important. Now, one of the most important things I tell people is take advantage of your employer contributions. There are certain schemes out there where the employer can contribute on behalf of you. You need to educate yourself how the employer can support you. Government co-contributions is really important. If you're one of those eligible employees who are in the low or middle income earners, who are eligible can get that support from that government co-contributions to match whatever you're contributing, enabling you to have a better contribution in your super retirement savings. But the most important thing is network and advocate. Find women like yourselves to network and educate yourself to understand what's out there, what are the benefits or incentives out there that can support me to close this gap in terms of superannuation contributions you and the rest of the cohort has. Finance, superannuation, these are all complicated areas. Australian or the Treasury doesn't make it easy for us. So in that sort of scenario, in that sort of world, we need to educate ourselves and take proactive steps to educate ourselves, network, and make sure you actually join one of those advocacy groups who can educate you to support you through this really complicated area.